The New York Times, Ancient DNA Reveals History of Hunter-Gatherers in Europe. Looking at DNA gleaned from ancient remains, researchers identified at least 8 previously unknown populations of early Europeans. In the 80,000s, archaeologists began reconstructing the deep history of Europe from the bones of ancient hunter-gatherers and the iconic art they left behind, like cave paintings, fertility figurines, and lion man statues. Over the past decade, genetics have added a new dimension to that history by extracting DNA from teeth and bones. And now, in a pair of studies published on Wednesday, researchers have produced the most robust analysis yet of the genetic record of prehistoric Europe. Looking at DNA gleaned from the remains of 357 ancient Europeans, researchers discovered that several waves of hunter-gatherers migrated into Europe. The studies identified at least 8 populations, some more genetically distinct from each other than modern-day Europeans and Asians. They coexisted in Europe for thousands of years, apparently trading tools and sharing cultures. Some groups survived the Ice Age, while others vanished, perhaps wiped out by other groups. We are finally understanding the dynamics of European hunter-gatherers, said Vanessa Villabla-Moco, a paleogeneticist at the Max Planck Institute of Evolutionary Anthropology in Leipzig, Germany, and an author of both studies. The new genetic analysis suggests that when farmers arrived in Europe about 8,000 years ago, they encountered the descendants of this long history, with light-skinned, dark-eyed people to the east, and possibly dark-skinned and blue-eyed people to the west. Dr. Villabla-Moco and colleagues have given these peoples a list of new names that can be hard to memorize in the kingdoms of Westeros: Iforno, the Vestonites, the Goyek-Qutu, the Villabruna, and their Obscur's Castle and the Sitacuno, among others. But the scientists are only just beginning to understand how so many different groups emerged 45,000 to 5,000 years ago. I didn't expect these amounts of replacements and changes in ancestry, said Carles Lafusa Fox, the director of the Natural Sciences Museum in Barcelona, and another of one of the new papers. We last to an understanding of why these movements was triggered. What happened here, why it happened, is change. Modern humans arose in Africa and expanded to other continents about 60,000 years ago. Last year, archaeologists reported what might be the oldest evidence of those humans reaching Europe, a set of 54,000-year-old teeth in a French cave. When these groups arrived in Europe, Neanderthals had already been living across the continent for more than 100,000 years. Their Neanderthals disappeared about 40,000 years ago, perhaps because modern humans outcompeted them with superior tools. But the oldest DNA of modern humans in Europe, dating back 45,000 years ago, undermines such a simple story. It comes from people who belonged. It comes from people who belong to the dynamic. So that's all about it. I mean, their version was up. So, okay, we'll continue reading the part that we are struck at. Which part? I suggest at this part. But the oldest DNA of modern humans in Europe, dating back 45,000 years, undermines such a simple story. It comes from people who belong to a lost branch of the human family tree. The ancestors were part of the expansion out of Africa, but they split off on their own before the ancestors of living Europeans and Asians split apart. These early Europeans have almost no genetic link to younger remains of hunter-gatherers. It appears that the first modern humans in Europe may have disappeared along with the Neanderthals, said Cosimo Polz, a paleogeneticist at the University of Tübingen in Germany, and another of the two papers published Wednesday. It is actually quite interesting that the very first modern humans also had a very hard time to actually survive, Dr. Polz said. Before the advent of ancient DNA analysis, archaeologists could give names to cultures based on the styles of the things they made. The oldest modern human culture in Europe is known as the Aurignacians, nations, named for the continent's oldest figurative cave paintings and sculptures. About 33,000 years ago, as the climate turned cold, a new culture called the Gravettian arose across Europe. Okay, so the free version was up, and I'll continue reading it tomorrow. Bye.